Hello, this is Sandy. In this video, I'm going to be doing a little demo of how I create really loose and playful abstract watercolor seascapes, just for like a way of warming up really. So I've got this A6 Hannah Mule pocket-sized sketchbook. It's 200 GSM cold press, nice little travel size portrait. So basically, I've just done some swatching and I've picked a couple of blues I liked the look of, and I'm just going to be experimenting, creating some abstract seascapes in a limited colour palette. So I'm just going to be choosing one or two colours and creating some experimental abstracts just as a way of warming up. And I hope you join me. So I have an A4 pad of watercolour paper here. It's St Cuthbert's Mill, I think, 300 GSM cold press watercolour paper. I've just taped it into two sections and I'm using this bottom one here. I've taped that off kind of in the middle, and this is going to be my horizon line. So the colours I'm using, I've got Horizon Blue, it's Kuretake Ganzo Tambi, I think it's from the 48 colour set. And I've also got a Graphite Blue from the Graphite set of Kuretake watercolours. And I'm just starting off on the horizon line just with a kind of that horizon blue. No rhyme or reason. I've put some water down on the paper and I'm going wet on wet and using these two colours just to block in the sky. And I'm just going really loosely and intuitively and just trying to create a sense of atmosphere and kind of like almost like a storm on the horizon coming along, that kind of vibe. And I'm just, intuitively blocking in those colours and just, yeah, letting the paint do its work its magic, and just going with it really playfully. So I'm now just going in with a paper towel and I'm just trying to create some texture and cloud effect and just blotting down some of those colours, and just to give it a bit more of an ethereal feel in some parts and a sense of lightness in other areas, and then going back in and trying to create a sense of depth and darker value and block in those clouds again. Just kind of going with what feels right, just really trying to create a sense of atmosphere in that sky area and create some big dark clouds really. So now I've got the graphite blue and I've gone wet on dry, and I'm trying to go in like in lines and create like a sense of rolling waves, and I'm just leaving a bit of a gap in there as kind of like the tip of the wave almost, where the light's shining on it. I'm just trying to create a sense of a stormy sea with big waves. So that's what I'm going for. I'm trying to go in with a bit less pigment at the bottom, as you know, when the waves break closer to the shore or closer to you, they're kind of more foamy and more transparent and lighter. So that's the effect I'm kind of going for. But yeah, just really loosely, just kind of, and quickly as well, just going in there, seeing what happens really, just putting some water down. And I'm going in with the horizon blue in some of those lighter areas just to kind of give a sense of reflection from the sky as well, just to add a bit more value in there, and just, just a bit more depth. So the paper's now really wet, so I'm just going to leave this one to dry. There's not really a lot I can do with it at the moment, so I'm just going to let that one dry naturally, and I'm just going to turn the pad over and work on this one now on the bottom. So with this one, I've just taped off with some washi tape a horizon line. I'm just going in with the graphite blue and a finer and smaller paintbrush, and I'm just kind of mapping in a bit of a landscape in the distance, maybe some distant cliffs or hills, and just trying to map in the landscape really. And then using a wet brush, I'm just activating the pigment with a bit of water, trying to get a nice dreamy kind of like ethereal effect, and let the watercolors just run into the watercolor, and then just using some of that off run into the sky, trying to leave some areas a bit brighter, and just then going over that horizon line again, just trying to make it a bit more prominent as it's very dry and hot here in the UK at the moment, and these watercolors are drying so quickly. Um, so I'm just trying to make that more prominent, and then because it's going wet onto wet, it's making a really nice effect. The watercolors like spreading out a bit. It's almost giving like an effect of kind of like trees over in the distance or something like that. So it's creating a nice effect. Just going in with some of that horizon blue and just trying to bring out the sky a bit more. Just adding a couple of, well, a bit more of the darker color as well, just to bring out like a stormy cloud effect as well, similar to the other one. Yeah, just enjoying the kind of technique really of just trying to create dramatic clouds, and then just using some more tissue paper just to blot some of that off and just tidy it up a little bit. So I've just kind of let that dry a little bit, and I'm just taking the tape off now. So we've got our horizon line. I'm now just going back in with some of the graphite blue, and I'm just trying to create a little bit of reflection. I'm kind of thinking I want this to be another kind of like moody seascape type of vibe, or almost like, or maybe even like a lake. So I'm just using that color just to, I'm kind of trying to match, not exactly, just trying to match the shapes on the horizon line um, at the bottom, just to kind of give it an effect of like a reflection. I've left a little bit of a gap where the tape was, just to kind of give that impression of some kind of reflection in the water. I'm not quite sure what it's going to look like. I'm just trying to, like use my imagination and think what should I do next, and just really intuitively just playing around really, and just seeing what happens and what we get. So now I'm just going again back in with the graphite blue, but I've watered it down quite a lot, taken some off, and I'm just trying to activate the watercolor and bring that down a little bit so it looks like reflections. What I've wanted to do is kind of recreate the effect from the sky, and almost like it looks like reflections in the water, just to have a really moody, monochromatic, minimalist kind of vibe, but with some atmosphere. And now just letting it drip down and just kind of trying to bring some different effects in, just really, really playful, just seeing what looks good, what I feel like at the time, going back in with some darker color, trying to bring that contrast in to make it interesting, and just letting it drip down, going in and trying to mop some of it up again just to kind of create lighter areas within the dark. Yeah, just trying to create, a bit of a composition really, and playing around, seeing what works, then just going back in and trying to pick some of that pigment up to create some more areas of light. I think I was just trying to get some different tonal contrasts really, because it's quite a minimal palette. It was actually really fun to do because you're not overwhelmed with what colours to use, you're just working with what you have, so it was really fun. So I've just let the other piece dry. There wasn't much more I could do with it because it was getting overworked and a bit, I was just moving it around, and I just thought, right, just leave it to dry and then you can take a look at it later. So I'm just going in with my Halamule A6 sketchbook, and I'm just going to give it another go because I'm enjoying it. So again, I've just taped up the page with some washi tape, and I've put in a horizon line, and I'm going to work over that and just draw in a, like a line to emphasize the horizon. And I've wet my brush and I'm just activating that line of pigment and letting the colors kind of bleed out. And I'm working with what comes out and just kind of moving it around, giving it a, like, sense of a moody sky again, just playing around with the pigment, seeing what effects we can create. It's the pigment is moving really nicely. It kind of looks like trees again, and just giving a nice sense of like a moody, dusky kind of landscape. I'm now coming back under the tape and just trying to map in some of the water. I'm just trying again to indicate reflections and leave some areas of light within that, and just play around with contrast really. So I'm just going back in with the graphite blue and putting a bit more pigment onto that horizon line just to bring out that detail a little bit more. Really enjoying the effects of the watercolor and it working wet on wet, and it, you know, the watercolor just does its own thing and just spreads out and creates really interesting shapes. And I'm just tilting it a little bit and just letting the water drip because it's very, there's a lot of water and paint on the page, and I was just, you know, just tilting it just to see if I could create like a tree effect. But you know, it just does what it wants to do, and I was just mopping up the excess and just seeing what I could create. I just feel like it's got a really nice kind of dusky effect. I've also just gone in and put in a load more pigment and just tried to make it look like a really heavily cloudy, maybe rainy sky. Kind of looks like a nighttime scene, maybe. Might be nice with some paint splatters or something, if like splatter some white on to look like stars or something like that. I'm now just trying to put in some reflections like on the water, and just to give like a set more of a sense of distance, to make it look like, you know, you're looking out far into the horizon, maybe over a nice lake with the reflections of the night sky or something. um, and just really playing around with those tonal values, just bringing out the darks and just tilting it, letting the paint drip down, just getting really, really playful with it and intuitive, really, and just, you know, working with what the paint does and then changing it up as it happens, really, and just getting into a nice flow state. Really relaxing and fun to do. It's only, you know, like it doesn't take very long to do, and minimal materials, not a lot of fuss, just really, really nice kind of warm up exercise, really. I really enjoy doing these little pieces. So this one's finished and it's all dry, and now I'm just doing my favourite part, peeling the tape. I think that when doing pieces like this, it's really nice to just have a piece of tape around it so that you get a nice crisp border. Gives you a sense of what it would look like if it was, if you painted something similar and it was in a frame. Just really nice crisp white edge against that kind of monochromatic dark blue. I think it just works really nicely together. Really enjoyed creating this piece. So fun to do. It really kind of allows your imagination to kind of play. I can see loads of things in the distance, like things that look like trees and stuff like that. These pieces are really fun to do. And then afterwards, you can always go in with, you know, acrylic paint, gouache, mixed media, pens, markers, and just fill in what you see. Like I kind of want to add a tree over there on the horizon line. You could add mountains, like, you know, going with a black, and I could bring out those further. It's really just a warm up exercise and just practicing composition and playing around with loose abstracts, really. So now these ones are dry. I'm just going in with the horizon blue just to add a bit more colour in the sky, really, because it doesn't really look like a sky at the moment. So I'm just adding that blue at the bottom just to give it a sense of it was nice and calm, but now it's going to get kind of like atmospheric and moody and maybe rainy and stormy, just to give that sense of atmosphere, really. I'm also bringing some more of that blue down into the water area to give it a sense of the reflection of the sky and the water. So I finished those and these are now dry. I took the tape off and just cut them up, really. Very interesting pieces. Nice sense of stormy sea in this one, which is what I wanted. The sky looks interesting. So I could then work on these further. I could get some oil pastels or some gouache or mixed media pens and things like that, and just kind of work out to bring the details, work on that foamy wave. You know, I could like bring out the white detail on the waves and just kind of work on it further. I'm just trying to see if it works both ways, and I think it works better this way. I think it has a nice sense of like sea and sky. This one kind of looks like a nice lake with the horizon, maybe kind of like trees in the horizon or something like that with the reflections. quite happy with that. I could then go in further and use like a darker colour and then kind of like draw that in even more. Maybe add a little tree somewhere, or maybe a little boat on the water or something like that. You can just play around with it. Just a really good exercise in practicing composition and value and things like that, and just a nice way to warm up, really. And we also had this little one that we did in the A6 Hannah Mule sketchbook. Really happy with this one. I can, my imagination is going wild with this one. Looks like mountains to me. Looks like there's little buildings or like a little tree. So I could then go in with some acrylic paint or gouache and kind of just add in little details. Again, I could add boats or stars or, just really play around with it. But I'm probably just going to leave it as it is because I really like it. But you can do tons of these and just really play about and test out your materials and, just test trying out new compositions. And you can even use these to create other pieces of art with, really. And considering we only use two colours and two or three paintbrushes, minimal supplies, really low pressure, fun and loose way of having a play around with watercolours and experimenting with abstract landscapes. So that's about it from me. I just wanted to say thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great week, and I will catch you on the next video. Thank you. Bye.